sticking to what you've been practicing, what you know already works. Like, because this is definitely the moment. If you've got an ace up your sleeve, challenge battles is when to pull it out.
Well, Rogue definitely had an advantage in jungle at times because they had a little bit of flexibility with some of their deeper hero pools. We saw Rhyme come out with some effectiveness, of course, and they can play Samuel, Baptiste, Kashka. They can play the full spectrum of the meta junglers. So depending on who it's going to be, it does look like it's going to be Pond the Original on the roster. This is really, really huge, guys, because Pond the Original is, if he is playing, I think we might...
We'll get this confirmed and make sure that we know for sure. I believe if it's on this overlay, then it should be correct, but I will get that double confirmed.
This is huge because, I mean, he, as a jungler coming out of Challengers, he is definitely second best behind Tigers, and he's really helped this team, you know, with a lot of big victories, taking out like Tribe and 2-0.
This is really interesting. The Vox getting banned away by Rogue, but then Lyra first picked over the Grace for Echo Fox. Not exactly something I would expect, but that... You have to assume this is going to be Rogue then picking up Grace for themselves.
Yeah, you would assume so. I can confirm, by the way, Pon is going to be playing for certain. This is confirmed. So this is the full-strength Rogue roster, which potentially changes this matchup in terms of how strong they're going to be. But the Lyra Grace first picks, not something that is rare in the Vainglory8, and it is going to be seen in this game as well. Glaive taken off the board by Rogue, though.
Yeah, that's a big deal to have Grace first picked on B side to give it up. Lyra is a great healer, and there's a lot of versatility there, so I'm curious to see. This next ban, Echo Fox now needs to think about. You've got some you know, strong junglers that you really don't want to give over. Grumtra's the ban, but I think Samuel or Baptiste are going to be two picks that Rogue will feel great about, depending on what they want to do. Or they could just go with the laner here. Yeah, they're going to go with Idris because they probably don't want to give away what they're going to do in the jungle just yet.
It makes a lot of sense to go for that. The Idris Grace is such a strong combo. We talked about it a lot over in Europe when Grace was being first picked. B-side was almost always banning the Idris away. This is an incredibly strong duo, and Echo Fox, they're going to have to come up with some way to deal with this because Idris being able to survive for so long in the back lines of your team because he can get there so easily is a really difficult thing to take care of.
Certainly is. That Grace just has so much utility to bring to a team, especially when you have something like an Idris that wants to dive, wants to stay in the thick of the fight. It is going to be a Kestrel picked up here for Echo Fox. Now, we've seen this picked up across the board generally. This is, I feel like Kestrel at the start of the season was really, it had become a fringe pick again, but more recently, it's starting to become very, very common in drafts.
Yeah, it's a pick that has a lot of power. A lot of teams are really drinks the flexibility, being able to go weapon or crystal with it, and its counter engage is one of the biggest strengths of Kestrel. If you can get that active camo trap down, you can just turn a team fight around when your opponents dive in. So I think they're partially looking to have this for that Idris, that when Idris jumps in, if they can get an active camo trap down onto him and just blow him up, or you just have that flat damage from the one-shots, and there's going to be the Scarf once again for Irwin. He has been having huge success with this hero.
He certainly has, but I've got to say, I'm not 100% convinced. Oh, Krull locked in as well. Suddenly we have very interesting compositions, but picking a Scarf into an Idris Grace already seems kind of strange to me because they want to dive onto you, but then a Krull comes into the mix. Like, where do we even look at for this rogue composition, Dragonborn?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of unique here. We haven't seen a lot of Krull, and when we do, it's not so successful.
Yes.
But the one thing it has is it has a very reliable stun once it's off cooldown. And of course, against the Scarf, when you've got that Dragon Breath coming out, you really want to have that. And there's a lot of range to that stun as well. So I think that might have been the intention behind it. You're going to also want to make sure that you've just got a lot of sustain when you're going to these team fights. And Krull does give you that in the jungle. I'm kind of fascinated. I mean, I think against the Kestrel, it's going to be a little tough because Kestrel can active camo fast enough to then repel. You know, the Krull will jump onto that active camo and get stunned up. I'm not sure if this is the right call. Both drafts are pretty unique from both the Vainglory8 and the Challenger's perspective.
I do really like the Krull into Scarf, though, because the whole thing of Scarf is you want to build up your stacks and then have a huge Dragon's Breath come through. If you have a bunch of weakness stacks put on you when that Dragon's Breath comes down, it's not going to have anywhere near as much impact. And again, the stuns, the From Hell's Heart can be really effective.
Yep, so trying to counter-stack the broken myth stacks, if you will.
Yeah, definitely for the Scarf.
We'll see if that's actually going to work out in this series. Krull has not been successful in the Vainglory 8 unless you're Von C. We'll see if it can work out for these teams here in the challenge battles. It's time to get into the game. Let us know who you're supporting. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. But with that, it's time to jump onto the Halcyon Fold for our second North American series.
Thank you very much, guys. And AJ, I think you're going to have to hold my hand through this one, because I got to say, Rogue's composition looks so scary going up against Fox.
Yeah, the composition out of Rogue's pretty interesting here. It's definitely not something we've seen a lot of. I'm honestly kind of intrigued to see if it's going to work out, just because it's such a departure from normal things. What I will say is that there's certainly a lot of ability to just... Well, there's a lot of durability on the comp, right? A lot of times we see compositions that have a lot of survivability, but that's not necessarily the same thing. Maybe the Idris has that, but both Grace and Krull are very durable heroes. Could make it difficult for Super Shot, for example, to be able to kill them quickly. That buys time for Rogue to get kills. That being said, Scarf is a hero that's good into durable heroes, generally speaking, at least in terms of being able to do damage. They have things on Echo Fox that they can work with to accomplish things. Here comes the fight.
Oh, yeah, Slater actually secured that one. Oh, they're all burning alive, but Fox will make it out alive, and Erwin will actually pick up the Elder Treant. And let me paint you a picture, AJ. A beautiful, wonderful picture with all the oil pastels that I do have. Rogue, they run in. They just cut down Hotshot. Evil stands at the back, heals Pon. No one dies, and Rogue just walk away with the game. How does that look to you?
Well, I mean, sure. we'll see. We'll see. I'm not entirely convinced that anything's going to be that cut and dry, though, because the thing is, there's a lot of abilities on both of these teams that can kind of come out of nowhere and really change the flow of a fight. A good example, right, would be the Idris ultimate, or the Grace ultimate, or even in some situations from Hell's Heart, from Krull, because it buys you so much time to do things. On the other side, Lyra can really change the landscape of a fight. I don't think it's ever going to be a straightforward initiation.
Oh man, Slater's so good at securing those Elder Treants. I'm not entirely sure how he's doing it as a support, but he managed to do it in the end. And Fox now securing 2 of those will eventually go back to base. This is what I was talking about. Look at Pon. He's running towards Owen. He's not going to be able to find him, though. He's going to be able to back off towards his turret. In fact, he's taking a lot of damage on the exit. Another Spitfire comes through, and Pon may have to back off at this point, but still, nonetheless, Rogue, they're doing what I wanted to paint a picture of, AJ, but just not successfully yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of early to make it happen too consistently. We'll see if they, with better vision later and a bit more damage, can make it happen. I think Echo Fox, they've got some win conditions worth talking about as well, though. I mean, if they are able to keep Rogue at a distance, so if, for example, Scarf gets a Frostburn and is able to really land a lot of those Spitfires, if Slata is able to get really good Bright Bulwarks down in the middle of, for example, the Grace or the Krull jump, then there are good opportunities for Echo Fox to just kind of sit there and be fine, right? It's difficult, for the side of Rogue to necessarily get on the targets they need to, unless they fully commit, and in that situation, maybe an Arcane Passage just resets the fight.
Well, resetting the fight is definitely something that Slater wants to do, but one thing that Lyra is also amazing at doing is disengaging with that passageway. And Erwin, he could maybe set up a sneaky Dragon's Breath at the end of it if Rogue do choose to follow it through. But I gotta say, and what they actually mentioned on the desk as well, was the fact if Pon actually comes through with these hard-hitting ultimates, if he does land from Hell's Heart, he's so pinnacle in the late game, because there's a lot of abilities that actually the blue team need to actually block when you got to kind of think about it. Echo Fox needs to be able to block Idris's just all-in engagement. They need to be able to block that Benediction from Evol as well, and that Holy Nova. It's going to be a lot of engagement coming out from Rogue, and that kiting potential from Echo Fox is going to have to be on point. We are jumping into a pause though, just to make you guys aware. It's not just something on your screen, and we should be back into the game very, very shortly.
Most critically, I think we need to realize that if something is not blocked, things go downhill so fast from the side of Echo Fox purely because of the weakness stacks. They can really mess with a comp like this. Someone like Scarf who doesn't do damage, then get weakened, but it's okay, I already done my damage, right? So a good example for a hero like that would be anyone with a lot of burst. Scarf tends to ramp up over the course of the fight, tends to need a longer duration fight to do high damage over time, and as a result of that, if you get weakened right off the onset because you don't get a good reflex block from Hell's Heart, you're off to a very bad start and can't necessarily come back from that in the course of the team fight.
Well, hopefully we'll get that pause get going very, very shortly. Now, what do you kind of see the game plan evolving here for Echo Fox? Yes, they want to kind of kite around Rogue. They want to make sure Rogue cannot get on top of their squishy members, Erwin and Supershot. But where do they see to kind of prioritize? Do they just want to siege up? They got to be kind of fearful of Rogue, or are they just going to want to look for these fights in the jungle where those active camo stuns are going to be so prevalent?
I think fighting in the jungle is a decent plan. It does give you a little bit more room to maneuver around some of what Rogue has to offer. Because Rogue, they don't really care where you are. They don't mind fighting the lane or the jungle because they're just going to jump on you with a dash. But on the other hand, being able to portal over a wall lets you juke people, or being able to find an active camo stun is a lot easier in the jungle makes a lot of sense there. So I think Fox, they'd like to fight in the jungle if they're going to fight. If they're going to push, then they just want to focus on disengaging, and they should make sure they have active camos and quick fingers on the bright bulwark to actually get out of the situations. I think in terms of timeline, they probably don't want to fight until the mid-game or maybe even late mid-game. It just really depends on if they can find any windows to get ahead. Because if they can, Scarf can really get out of control earlier than you think. It just requires maybe a bit of a slip-up from Rogue, but they should be aware of that. They shouldn't just play to the mid-game. If they see an opportunity, sure, go for it.
Well, I'll tell you who isn't looking towards the mid-game, AJ. No, you love your mid-game because Vision comes into play. I just like fighting. Pond's wanting to do it right now. Has got Tension Bow first item. Hammy's actually picked up the Sora Blade as well. They're looking to fight, and they're looking to fight now. Even Evil has got the Fountain online. Same with Slader over the other side. Erwin hasn't completed that tier 3 item, although, as I say that, he is rotating down to the shop and will pick up Eve of Harvest here. But you got to say, Rogue, especially when Pond has hit that level 6 mark, they want to fight, and we'll see if they do want to open up something under this turret.
I think Rogue should try and apply pressure, but you got to be really careful about where and how you do it against a comp like this. If you overextend, you're going to get turned and burned on by that Scarf and the Kestrel. So what I'd like to see Rogue do, to be honest, is set up some deep vision, because they can afford to. They can afford to move into the enemy jungle pretty safely, at least at this juncture. And then maybe, sit up by the item shop when they see someone moving by their forward treant, begin to move up and capitalize there, fight there. Yes, Echo Fox want to fight in the jungle, but they critically don't want to fight in the jungle yet. So abuse that, right? You're not going to be able to fight in the lane. There's no way Erwin, Supershot ever push this wave up if they don't have to, or if they're not going for the turret, because it just puts you in a dicey position against Rogue, who can jump on you from a huge range.
Every time you mention about Rogue jumping on someone, Supershot just gets chunked. There's chakram from Hammy. It's extremely painful at the moment. Supershot playing so far back because he has to. He knows he cannot step up. Pond's in that brush as well. Waiting there with his giant baleful axe, ready to just slice you in two, Supershot. You've got to be very careful, especially with that tension bow and with that level 6. Now, the question is, where does Slader really want to kind of push forward now? Because he is level 6, he does have that passageway, but more often than not, I can imagine they're just going to want to, oh wait, from Hell's Heart comes through, Supershot gets jumped on, everything is just piled in on him, and there's the kills I was talking about. Evo is going to get himself out of there as well. Erwin couldn't do anything because he was wholly novid, and that is going to be first blood going over to Rogue.
Yeah, very nice play there. I wanted to see them be aggressive. They did it in a surprisingly effective way, given that they were actually just going under the turret. But CC is CC. If you lock someone down, they're not going to be able to do anything, especially when Slato wasn't already in necessarily the best position to back them up. So yeah, really nice opportunistic play by Rogue. They need to keep those coming, though, because as we get later and later, things get scarier and scarier for them. I'd like to see maybe them leverage the gold mine here, as it is nearly full stack.
Extremely beefy. You know, it'd be quite amusing actually if the gold mine actually got fatter, or like just bigger in general. The more gold it had in, so it started off as a
good idea.
tiny
Oh my
gold
God.
miner, just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It'd be kind of funny.
So we're going with the idea here that gold miner sort of in lore eats the gold. Like
Yeah.
he's not
Yes.
mining, he's harvesting.
Perfect. It would look a bit
see.
gross, so just keep it mining. But yeah, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then by the time it's 300 gold, it's just this like humongous mess of just gold. Just can't
Maybe-
eat anymore.
I think there's a way of doing this without being so ridiculous. Like you can just have like a pot of gold next to it that fills up, or a bag over its back that kind of.
No, let's go full ridiculous, AJ. Come on, we have to just make this as ridiculous as possible. Gold miner gets bigger, everything else gets bigger. Feed him minion candy as well. I know it can't happen, but if it could, it gets even bigger off that as well. Okay, let's
What
have a look
kind
at
of
the game
creature
as a
has a
whole.
diet of minion candy and literally gold? Right? Like,
Maybe gold's tasty, man, and candy. Everybody loves candy. What can I say?
all right, let's refocus. I do like that idea, though. I think I'm going to pass that by our studio team on Monday. All right, Rogue. They did get that early kill, but notably, they're not actually ahead in gold right now. And it is partially because Echo Fox being very efficient, and Rogue is not pressuring them enough. Echo Fox is saying, all right, you're not going to pressure us enough, so I'm going to farm my jungle back and forth very consistently on spawn. Meanwhile, Rogue's like, I want to pressure them, so I'm going to go to the lane, but there's no opening, so I've missed time farming, right? That's where the gold disparity comes from. Rogue needs to be more decisive. They need to just go in, make plays happen. As I said, leverage vision in the jungle, leverage the gold miner. You can win fights in those situations right now.
I mean, Pom was stood there for ages with Evol as well, and Slater was across the mustache bridge. They even had vision on him. They knew he was alone, just didn't want to pull the trigger. I mean, yes, Slater does have a lot of tools to kind of get out of there. Super Shot taking another chakram. Luckily, Slater's got his HP, got his back. In fact, right now, Rogue have decided, you know what, actually, Pon, you, right now, go take that gold miner, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Fox actually not spotting this out. Spitfire's going to come over the wall and it's going to steal it. Pod's in a lot of trouble now as well. Slater's going to follow him up, but there we go. There's the heal from Evol. My goodness, Erwin says, all right, cheers. Spitfire takes the gold miner.
Man, that is not what you want to have happen in that situation. Rogue need to make sure they have the support available, right? Like, that's why I keep mentioning vision. It lets you make plays. That being said, I do think we've not given enough credit, Rogue, up until this point, to what they can actually do in the late game. Hammy can become very, very threatening. So can Kroll in the right situations, although this build is not really a build that is necessarily conducive to being strong in the late game with a tension bow Kroll. That's actually something we can talk about just by itself. That's a really interesting build. That's a build I go for if I want to make things happen early. It's not really a build I go for if I'm going to have this pace to the game. So I'd like to see Rogue start to really put pedal to the metal. They need to.
Oh my goodness, speaking of pedal to the metal, AJ, you spoke too soon, my friend. Super Shot just gets jumped on now. Everybody is separated completely. Slater's trying to run after Erwin. His Hammy's just going to solo him out almost. And now Pon is just chasing down Super Shot. That tension bow's doing work now. Does find the kill. And that'll be Slater and Erwin just cowering under their turret as Rogue secure themselves at least one extra on the board. But question is, as always, what can they really do with it?
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about, though. I like that they finally went for it. The thing is, Rogue can make even crazier plays than you might expect because they have a Grace. So they can actually just, like, dive a turret, get a kill because they have 2 tension bows on their team, and then nearly die, but just get away. So I like that a lot. They get a turret off the back. Rogue finally starting to make the moves. I guess they just wanted Cammy to also have tension bow. Maybe that's what they were waiting for. I don't necessarily mind that, but I think they could have gone aggressive earlier. As it stands now, though, whoever they choose to jump on, especially from Hell's Heart lands, is looking very dead. Very, very dead. Because they've also got Poison Shift to stop Lyra's heal. So Echo Fox, what they need to do is just reaffirm their plan from earlier and stick to it. You know, why were they so close to the turret when they weren't pushing the turret? They were doing really, really well earlier on of just, like, deciding we shouldn't do this at this point in the game, even though we want to. You know, they were saying, all right, we're a late game team, let's just wait till late game. Then they, like, didn't have anything happen for minutes and minutes and minutes because Rogue was playing very passively. And they took that opportunity to be like, let's reevaluate. Let's start being aggressive. Yeah, we should be aggressive, right? No. You're going to get caught out by from Hell's Heart. You're going to get jumped on. You're going to die. Rogue are not... It's not late enough in the game that your carries can return fire effectively.
I mean, just obviously we are in a pause, guys, so no need to worry again. It's just a couple of little issues. Again, we'll get back into the game very shortly, but let's have a look at Fox's items then, if you're kind of talking about power spikes there, AJ. Owen, he's got the Broken Myth now. He had the Eve of Harvest first item. This is the kind of point where he needs to fight. He can very easily stack up that Broken Myth, release a massive ultimate onto hopefully a couple of people of Rogue. I mean, you even look at Super Shot now working towards that monocle. Got Breaking Point, got Sorrow Blade. They want to fight. This is the mid-game stage they're at. They're round level 9, round level 10. Rogue have found 2 kills, not even a single extra turret. They only found the original one. I mean, you got to say, Rogue aren't really putting pedal to the metal as we've seen other and previous teams do thus far. I mean, even Hammy picked up a 3rd item tension bow. Not something we usually see either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike the tension bow necessarily. You're trying to burst people down. I think in an extended fight, Rogue lose anyway. But that being said, yeah, like put the pressure on right now. If you've had a Sorrow Blade and a Poison Shift for a while, you got to utilize those to really be as effective as you can be. With these pauses coming through, though, it does give the team some time to sort of think about what they need / want to do. And I would definitely like to see Rogue just come out of the gate swinging as soon as we get back from this pause. I think there's always like this nagging feeling in the back of my head, at least when I'm playing a late game or early game comp, and I know I'm meant to be or not meant to be doing certain things. I'm sure Rogue has that, and this is their opportunity to like take a step back, just be like, okay, we do need to apply pressure. Like, yeah, we have Kroll, yeah, we have Idris, but they have Scarf. You know, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, where does Scarf love you to be? He loves you to be straight in front of him so he can just burn your entire team. And now Rogue, I illustrated perfectly, AJ, I think, with my artistic skills of my speech earlier on, that I wanted to see Rogue just sprint at the entire team of Fox and just gun them down, but that's just not what happened at all. We've got 2 kills, yes, infusions even coming out from Rogue, speaking that they want to fight. It's just not happening at the moment. In fact, I'm going to eat my words again. Pon maybe looking to go in, but again, just backing off. It's incredibly confusing to kind of see Rogue just, again, not being decisive as you want them to be.
Yeah, that being said, if they decide to fight around Crystal Sentry, and Fox doesn't immediately lose 1 player, I don't see that fight going the way of Rogue, just because there's too much damage over time. Look at this positioning. Go now. Hammy has the flank.
Goldmine is going to get taken. It's frustrating, AJ. It's a frustrating game because we can see everything. They can only see their own screens and their own vision. That's why it's frustrating. But Rogue, nonetheless, they do lose another gold miner. Gold is completely tied up here as well between them. Very slow, methodical game from both teams. But Rogue, they need to be able to just pull the trigger here. And Fox just happy to wait it out, like you mentioned, till late game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Look at their farm. It's doing fine. Yeah, it's not Druid numbers, but they're doing just fine. Hammy has pretty great farm, but I don't think he's necessarily going to be able to compete with the Scarf damage regardless once we hit 17-ish minutes. Echo Fox, they keep finding themselves objectives, too. Like, they've had 2 gold mines. As a result, even though Rogue took a turret, gold is very even between the teams. And again, like I've said in past weeks, I'll just do my like... I have to do this at least once a week, right? Some heroes spend gold better than other heroes. Scarf is one of those heroes. So the fact that it's even doesn't tell the whole story.
Well, every item is a power spike for him. Exactly what he's looking for right now. His next big power spike. You can imagine it's going to be a Shatterghast. Look at Pon, though. Maybe looking for a small engagement. Slater is going to find him from Hell's Heart. Is going to swing and a miss.
No.
He actually gets stunned up himself. There comes the Dragon Breath. He's going to get melted down. Heal from Evol and Irwin. They're trying to hunt Pon. He gets healed up a fair bit, but now Hammy straight on top of Suyu Shot. He goes down. The re-engagement here, and the smite almost kills Irwin off. Hammy still trying to look for him. Chakram up in a couple of seconds. Dashes towards him. Gets the kill. Fountain to heal them all up as well. That re-engagement from Rogue really worked out for them in that time.
I can't decide if Echo Fox just sort of like defaulted. Oh, hold on a second.
Oh, hang on a second.
That's more like
passageway.
Okay.
It's all good.
I can't decide if in that fight Echo Fox defaulted to being like, oh, the heal's gone, let's go. Or if they really didn't realize that there was an Echo on Evol. Because, yeah, like ordinarily the time that Echo Fox decided to turn engage was perfect. But it ended up being a great bait out of Rogue because they had an Echo that is healed twice. It was 1,200 health healed by Evil in that fight. It's mind-blowing. Like, there is no opportunity for Echo Fox to really chase there. What they needed to do was say, we burned one heal, but we know there's an Echo, so let's stop now and make Rogue do something again. And then we'll burn the Echo heal, and then we'll go in, right? Like, we'll do the same thing. But they burned a lot just to get on top of Pawn, and Pawn came back from the dead twice. I mean, he already came back once, he's Kroll, but, you know, that's it's ridiculous. So, yeah, a bit of a strategic mishap, I think, from Echo Fox. I don't think they anticipated just how much healing Evil could do.
Uh-oh, Pawn wants to go in again. Super shot's been found. He's going to block it completely. Nice holding over on Slater, but Evo's just getting chunked out. Fountain's going to heal him up, and there's the ultimate on himself. He's going to pop the Echo too, so he has the ultimate once more available to him. Fox looking for this triple re-engage. Hammy caught up in the front. Another heal comes through for Hammy. Oh my goodness, Evo. The healing numbers are going to be insane. Pawn now just looking for an exit, but Fox refusing to give up this fight earlier. Spitfire almost hits Evil, but he's a little bit caught out here. Pawn's on the side, doesn't have ultimate, but they're just going to go straight in once more. They've been caught out, but that bright bulwark was good, but it wasn't good enough. I don't think it was. Owen's just getting chunked out. Pawn, just go in, my man. He's going to find Slater, and Hammy coming up big. Passageway for Slater isn't going to help him, and that will be 2 members of Fox going down, with Slater once again the only one alive.
Echo Fox are falling apart in these fights, and I think, you know, I can understand it. It's very difficult to fight into a Grace with Echo. I mean, in the last minute, she's ultimated like 4 times. It's just insane.
3 billion times. I've lost count. It's on two hands.
Let's just not. But the thing is, you have to adjust the way you're fighting it, and they're not doing it. They're like, oh, we burned cooldowns, let's go. We burned cooldowns, let's go. And every single time, they haven't burned enough cooldowns. Plus, why aren't you flaring the mustache bush? Pawn had the great flank there, but although it was a good idea to try for it, you don't expect that play to work. Like, if I'm playing in solo queue, and I'm retreating with my team, and I back into the bush, I'm like, all right, I mean, it would be great if I could just flank here, but it's not going to work, right? And then it does, and you're like, cool. That's exactly what happened there for Pawn. I think he could not have anticipated the entirety of Echo Fox to stack while chasing without even checking the bush. Yeah, overall, Echo Fox, they're just not adapting to what is, yeah, it's a weird strategy, but, you know, you've got ways that you can play around it.
Well, it's working for Rogue. Run at Fox and win. Just slay them where they stand. That Kraken was taken by Rogue, obviously. That's why you see that massive hunking beast just lumbering down the lane. He's going to now start chomping and hitting on that turret, and now Rogue. Will they want to go in again? Pawn looking for an entrance, maybe. I think they're just going to let that Kraken do its business. Evo coming in, and that Kraken once more is going to destroy that turret. We'll see what Rogue want to do. They are just going to decide to back off here, not want to take anything too quickly here. And you got to say, an echo of their former selves. Echo Fox right now just crumbling away. 2,000 gold doesn't seem like much, but their base is in ruins.
It is, and at this point, yeah, there's still opportunities to come back. Like, you got to remember the composition that we're looking at here. It's got the Scarf. But they don't have a lot of ways of keeping the Scarf in fights when they turn, and that's really punishing them right now. They need to be able to actually, like, disengage and then turn. At the moment, they've got 1/2 of that equation down, so it's a bit dicey. That being said, if Rogue oversteps, there is good damage that Echo Fox can do in that situation. It's just, like, what does Rogue overstepping even look like? Like, I meant to be analyzing this game. I don't feel like I know, because you've got two Grace heals. So how do you overstep? What is too far?
You have to sit on your base. Oh, from Hell's Heart's going to hit. Oh my goodness. Super shots in a lot of trouble. Nice Crucible. He's going to have to get away, but look at Hammy. He's straight on top of him. That Crucible is going to heal him up, as well as the Fountain even. Nice. And now Pawn is going to go down as well. 1 shot, 1 kill. Not even needed. And now Evil is just going to be on the run. Finally, Fox find the fights that they need, and all as they needed to do apparently was keep Super Shot alive. Evo's going to burn, he's going to melt, he's going to die if he doesn't get that ultimate off. 900 HP heal, and Fox are just going to run him down, and that will be the ace for Echo Fox, and now they look to break the base. Oh my goodness.
So, with this all being said, if active camo lands like that, that's pretty good, and Pawn didn't actually pop Reflex Block, neither did Hammy in that fight. So, that is, I mean, yeah, it was perfectly played. Let me put it this way. It was perfectly played by Echo Fox, specifically by Supershot. But even in the instance, because they're so ahead, even in the instance of perfect play from your opponents, Rogue should probably still win these fights. The problem is they just made a huge misplay. So, yeah, this has given a huge window to Echo Fox. Let's see if Pawn and team, if Rogue can actually come back from them.
Well, they're going to start up that Kraken. And now Rogue posturing towards it. Evol's near base, though. Can't really be much help right now. Has to really get his fast boots are moving. Fast feet are moving. Rogue, they need to go in now. They need to go in now. Oh my goodness, they just did it. Rogue just stole the Kraken. Hammy's just going to cut them down. Here we go. Pond's going to find the back line, and Hammy is just straight on Owen. Owen's in a 1v2. They need to just kite for him. Evo's just straight on top. The heals are way too much for Fox to deal with. Hammy's almost found Shooter's Shot, dashes forward, finishes him off with a basic attack, and now Owen is just going to be the target for Rogue. Fox have been outfoxed. They get taken and cut up. And now Slater once more, the last member alive, hasn't died yet, protecting his KDA, AJ, as that Kraken is going to march on their base.
Oh, man. After that comeback, to lose the Kraken like that, absolutely heartbreaking for Echo Fox. I don't see them defending their base here. Kraken's still full health with only the 2 turrets left. Jaws, I think we're going to be seeing game number 2 with Rogue in the lead here.
Oh my god, I think so too. One turret's going to fall, the next one to follow. Slater, the last lonely Lyra, is just going to have to walk back to base. That Kraken is going to finish off the crystal. And I got to say, Rogue, they may have not found the openings in the early game, AJ, but they sure did find them in the mid.
Absolutely, and moving into our next game, I really want to see, Rogue apply pressure more and earlier if they're going to go for something like this, but I'd also like to see Echo Fox just make sure they're playing around what Rogue has, because in the late game, they kind of lost track of them.
We'll see if they can do the same thing next game. We'll see if there's any more interesting drafts, but to break that game down a little bit more, we got Munch and the boys over on the desk.
Thank you very much, guys. We've seen a Krull finally be successful in the challenge battles. Obviously, we've seen it in the past. We've seen TSM use it. Now we're seeing other teams try and find a use for him within the meta. And a phenomenal victory coming into this one for Rogue. It looked like Echo Fox were going to take that, but then a little bit of a throw when it came to the Kraken.
Yeah, it was looking so good for... it was mostly for the side of Rogue during that game. But then Echo Fox started to finally come back, finally finding their footing. And then it just all goes south with one misstep at the Kraken. But, again, this Krull being used almost entirely to try and set up plays for the Idris. And again, Idris Grace. Yeah. It's just so difficult. When you have that much healing able to come out when you get into trouble, it's just so difficult to fight against.
So for someone like me that won't understand all of the intricacies of these fights, Dragon Ball, run me through these, because these were some really complicated fights.
Yeah, we really saw Rogue just setting up ganks consistently. Pond the Original is just the centerpiece of these engagements. He goes in very, very fast. He wants to get those weakness stacks on quickly. They take damage from the Scarf, but again, the heal coming out from Evol, able to give them the sustain they needed. The surprise attack was so important. Rogue got the early game because of it. And it was actually not until we saw Echo Fox start to regain some composure into late game that they started to win some of those fights. But we see consistently when they got the jump on, they were able to find it. This is the one time, though, where we do see Hammy goes in very, very far. But thanks to the Kestrel being able to go to active camo, does find the kill on the Hamby. Echo Fox started to regain control here at this point.
Yeah, this was one where the heal from Evol didn't come out in time to try and save Hammy going so deep. You had the Echo, used it on the ultimate, but Hammy was already dead before the second heal could come through. But then once we got to these later fights, again, just the double heals from Grace, the Divine Intervention, the shields that it provides, the Holy Shield, the 40% damage reduction, and this, of course, the Kraken Steel.
This is the heartbreaking moment for any Echo Fox fans watching this game. You just see him get it. I believe that was actually an auto attack that got it in the end there alongside the Chakram. But yeah, and then obviously we already saw this fight. We know what the rest of the game looked like.
But again, here comes that what we're talking about. You look at Hammy. He goes down very low, and 890 heal puts him back to full while he's in this duel with the Kestrel. That even the active camo trap is nowhere near enough. Once he gets unstunned, he just dashes onto the Kestrel, finds the kill, and that's all she wrote.
And a huge part of that was, like, you can see Irwin there. For that entire fight, he had no energy. He couldn't actually be the DPS that his team needed him to be. And that's one of the situations that these teams will capitalize on. If you're found with no energy, they will punish you for that. And that means Rogue is going to be up in this series. Now, looking towards this next game in this series, what needs to change here? Like, was this a matter of Rogue just outplaying Echo Fox, or was this just a couple of late game mistakes that made it go their way in the end? I mean, Dragonborn, like, what do you expect to come into this second draft? Do you expect there to be major changes for Echo Fox?
Well, I absolutely think that, Rogue has the potential to counter you in the jungle no matter what you do. And it was actually interesting to get the Cruel pick was really for the lane, which is a little bit different than what we've seen previously. Pawn the Originals usually wants to dominate the jungle. And in this case, the Scarf was susceptible, but as it was racking up to late game, started to kind of come into its own, and that, unfortunately, Echo Fox let that one slip away. I think, though, if you do come in here, this is really going to be, when you have Rogue on A side now, it's going to be challenging, because now they've got to kind of, like, play on, they're going to have to, ban first, pick first, and have to show maybe their carry first right out the gate. So as we jump into this draft, I really want to focus to see how Pawn the Original and Hamby will pick their carries and win, because Echo Fox definitely looking to counter.
I think the big thing here, for me at least, for Echo Fox is don't let the Grace Idris combo go over. It's too strong of a duo to just allow your opponents to have without having a hard counter in mind already. And so they're going to be a Vox first ban. I'm a big fan of Vox first ban from a side in this current meta, because it forces your opponents to then say, okay, we're going to ban either the Baron or the Grace. Grace gets to go through. Now Echo Fox essentially has to either pick or ban the Idris.
Yeah, also Lyra, quite a good pick up into Grace as well. It means that at least you get one of these sustained captains, something to tide you over during these fights and keep you rocking and rolling. It's going to be a Grumpjaw pick, so kind of straying away from what is standard right now.
And we saw one Grumpjaw earlier today. Went for that Crystal Grumpjaw. Didn't really work out, but this could very well be the weapon Grumpjaw, which I feel has a much higher success rate. Grumpjaw overall actually does not have a very high success rate in the Vainglory8. Across both regions, the first 3 to 4 weeks of play, it's sitting at under a 40% win rate. So it really has not been able to shine the way that teams have liked, because teams have just figured out ways to deal with it. But really interesting that they don't go for the Lyra at all here. This is going to afford Rogue, or allow Rogue the opportunity to ban that healer away.
Yeah, they were going to do just that.
So now looking at Echo Fox, what do you anticipate the pick being here, Dragonborn? Where do you go from here alongside this Grumpjaw? Is Adagio an option?
It could be. They could flex the Grumpjaw as captain. We haven't seen that a whole lot recently, but it's possible. I think, this point you really would prefer to get another flex pick, that maybe like even a Glaive if you wanted to, or you want to get that kind of push. You really want to be able to get to the back line past the Grace. Grace is a pretty good front line as well. On the side of Echo Fox, though, we know that Super Shot as a carry has some unique preferences, and we've seen that come up in the draft kind of quickly here. So I don't expect to see a Jewel, but wouldn't be surprised. Kestrel is going to be coming out.
Yep, so Kestrel has been a prevalent part of a lot of these drafts, and that is very likely to go over to Super Shot. That's something we've seen him lean on. But now, over towards Rogue. What do you go with here to round out this composition, knowing that both Kestrel and Grumpjaw can be flexible, can go in different roles? Is there something that you can draft that's just safe here?
Black Feather, I think, would be a really good pick for them to pick up. You can go either weapon or crystal, depending on if you want the poke or you want the all-in. You also just want someone who can dive into the backlines when you're playing with a Grace. It just makes things work so much better. The Holy Shields are just so effective if you have someone already in the team. And you can't go for double range with a Grace, because it just doesn't work out. You end up with Grace isolating herself, essentially, whenever she uses her A ability. So the Celeste is going to be one pick. That's
Celeste has been incredibly popular across the challenge battles.
Definitely been growing in popularity. Even in Vainglory8, we've seen her a couple of times start to rear her head up and be more prevalent.
Yeah, and this could be Pawn the Original on Celeste. We saw him pull out a Jungle Celeste in Challengers against Tribe 2-0'd them with Celeste pick both times, and it was something that, we saw Tribe had no answer to, and so I wouldn't be surprised at all we see Rogue pull this out again. Very effective for them so far.
And the Glaive as well, going to round out this composition. Glaive, obviously, very good into Kestrel. It's something that we see that interaction quite a lot.
Yeah, and so it's interesting here. A lot of times when you see a Grumpjaw, we've talked about it on the Vainglory8 desk. The counters to the Grumpjaw are the Kestrel and the Scarf. Those are the two most used heroes to take care of the Grumpjaw. The Celeste kind of fills a similar role of just having that long range that can sort of scale up really well into the late game and deal with the Grumpjaw once you get to that stage. It does look like it will be a Captain Grumpjaw, though, as the Samuel comes out for this final pick.
Yep, so Irwin going to be taking that Samuel to the jungle and super shot with the Kestrel in lane once again. So we have our compositions rounded out. Captain Grumpjaw, not something we were expecting coming into this draft, but it obviously is something that is kind of on the edge of the meta, something that you can go for. How are we feeling about these compositions then? Do Echo Fox have what it takes to push this into a 3-game series? Can they actually get back in this one now?
It's definitely possible. The Samuel pick is one that it's hard to get to that back line sometimes. It's hard to get on top of Samuel, and he's got so much sustain. But, you know, I really love the Celeste pick that we've seen, of course, Glaive. I'm not sure if it's going to be Hamming on the Glaive or if it's going to be Pawn on the Glaive, so that's actually still not certain. And that's nice to have that flexibility. You're kind of not really revealing your true composition even when the draft's complete, which is definitely an advantage going into making the team question as you get into this game with the first few minutes. But I think, you know, Rogue has been performing very well. Pawn the Original's been dominating in the jungle. I actually think last game might have been probably one of their worst performances for Pawn. I expect them to clean things up, and I think they're going to take this 2-0.
All right, so we need to see them pick it up just a little bit. It's time to jump on into this one. Let us know who you're supporting for this game. Hashtag Vainglory8. Do you believe in the Echo Fox comeback, or do you think Rogue can run away with this one? It's time to find out as we head into the second game in this series. Rogue against Echo Fox. Let's get on into it.
Thank you very much, guys. My name is George, joined by AJ once again. And yes, that is the main question on everybody's lips. Can Echo Fox come back against Rogue? Because Rogue, quite a dominating performance as it reached the late game there.
Oh, absolutely. Really, really strong stuff. I was very impressed by what I saw before. And compositionally, they've got a few of those same ingredients. Well, one, the Grace, which arguably one of the better ingredients to have from that composition they ran last game. I have to admit, I think that what Echo Fox has is a bit better for dealing with it, mostly because of the fact that, you know, if Grumpjaw, for example, eats Grace, a lot of that utility is shut down. It's a question of whether they can execute upon that, though.
Wait and see. Already Evo. Oh, did he get that? Oh, we got it.
Nice.
Evo. Steel King and even Pawn on this Celeste. I think we're actually seen a whole lot of is Celeste jungle, but Evo now sealing away more of the fronts. Man, Rogue already pressuring out Fox and Slater on this Captain Grumpjaw, and that's going to be the main question there, AJ, or the main thing we're going to watch out for is can he actually isolate Evo to make sure he's just a non-factor in these fights?
Yeah, that is indeed going to be very critical. We'll see if that ends up happening. I like the fact that we're seeing this lane Glaive, by the way. I want to touch on that a second more. Glaive plus Grace is a composition that can really just be great dive buddies as we head into the later stages of the game and the mid-game, so keep your eyes on that. We might see a lot of work being done very quickly by Rogue just diving in, and yeah, Celeste can't necessarily follow in the same way, but she certainly can support from a distance. So there's an opportunity here, especially if Hammy finds a good knockback.
Yeah, he isolates himself, but also isolates another member of Fox. So that'll be Evo's job to make sure Hammy stays alive in these fights. But now Pon is just forever pushing, it seems. Irwin out of his own jungle is going to group around this Elder Treant, but with two members of Fox just rotating down. Evo does miss the Holy Nova. It's alright, buddy. We all miss him from time to time. We will ignore it for now. Now Pon getting chased out by Slater. Benediction over the wall from Evo, though. He's never done.
It's super frustrating playing against a Grace sometimes in the early game. She can constantly pressure you with the super long range on Benediction. If you overstep and try and actually have a fair fight, you're going to get knocked up by Holy Nova. It's really tough. So I like the fact that Evol's being a nuisance. That's what you definitely want to be doing in this situation.
Nuisance is exactly what he's good at. Maybe he should change his name. I don't know. Not up to naming... Oh, Evo! Oh, that was close. Super shots. Almost had a good shot on him, but Hammy doing fairly well against Super Shot in this lane, I must say. Obviously starting with a book of eulogies, AJ, so he's going to be sustaining a little bit more than you normally would, starting off with a weapon blade. But melee laner, especially against someone like a Kestrel, can be quite hard sometimes, but he's holding his own.
Yeah, he's doing a decent amount of work here. Obviously, Book of Eulogies makes a huge difference, as you said. See as well, he's doing some good damage back, too.
Yeah, that's a nice core collapse on Slater there. He did dive in front of Super Shot, taking the bullet for him, but did manage to get chunked out anyway. And now Super Shot and Slater fairly low, which means Rogue now looking for a small invade on Erwin. Erwin getting those fakey recalls off, just making sure. Rogue knows where he knows he is, so wrap your head around that one.
I can't.
No, neither can I. But Rogue, still, they're pushing the lane. That's exactly what they need to do. Let's talk about the item kind of scaling here. Looking at Pawn, he's picked up this triple crystal bit. We know he's going to be a menace in the late game, but where do we see Hammy kind of building? Is he going to be building more tank orientated, more relying on Pawn, or is he going to want to go for this upfront burst? We do see a lot of these glaive players do going tension bow nowadays.
I think I wouldn't mind him just going for damage. The thing is that if he does, Erwin and Super Shot are very valid targets for him to just take down quickly, and Pawn can finish anyone that he can't kill right off the bat. Oh, this is bad news.
Oh, yeah, Slater just gets a hangry onto 3 of them. Pawn's now completely isolated. Super Shot goes down, though. Heliogenesis was good. It's 349 damage, and he ends up falling. Now, Super Shot and Pawn, they end up trading, but Hammy was fairly low, so he had to back here, and now it's just all up to Evil to push that lane. But Fox really coming in, or at least Slater definitely came in big there.
Yeah, I really have to say that was a very nice engagement. He hit all 3 people with the splash damage from his dash. So whenever you can do that, you're going to chunk people out quite nicely, even as a captain, just because early on in the game it has pretty high base damage. This certainly buys a lot of space for Echo Fox to keep applying some nice pressure.
I mean, that's what they've been doing, but I mean, you got to apply more pressure, it seems, to this Celeste. He scales up into the late game like an absolute beast, but with just one item, and that being the Frostburn, surely you just want to put more pressure on her a lot sooner. Yes, you've got to contend with the Hammy, you've got to contend with Ebo, but Slater, he's going to hit that level 6 mark soon, and he's already doing a fair bit of base damage. I'm kind of curious to see where Fox actually want to put pressure on, because at the moment they're not playing around, they're playing around Rogue more than playing to their composition as a whole, it seems.
That being said, they are making Rogue worry about a lot of things pretty successfully right now. Rogue has to be careful about stacking up. You can see Evol is using Holy Nova as soon as Slater goes in, which means he's not using it to dive on the back line and set one up, or he's not using it on the target that Hammy knocks back into the team. There are things that are going quite nicely for the side of Echo Fox. It's just about capitalizing on it, I think, because right now it's pretty difficult. That's expected to an extent with the composition that they're running and when it spikes, but I think they could do maybe a little bit more pressuring up their own.
Pressure, pressure, pressure. That's what AJ wants. Hope you can hear him. Well, they definitely can't, but still. Slater now, he is at that level 6 mark, looking to maybe isolate a single target from Rogue. But Super Shot, he doesn't rely on the levels like anybody else does. He just wants loads of those points in Glimmer Shot, and he has actually got a Sorrow Blade as well. The Malice and Verdicts will start hurting from Erwin as he picks up that Frostburn. And you've got to imagine, Fox, they come into this game number 2, kind of battered and bruised. And speaking of battered and bruised, actually, Super Shot takes a lot of damage, but Evil is going to be able to disengage here. Hammy's been eaten, though. Slater is going to use that Hangry to get a little bit of distance, spits him back out, or not in front of his team, actually in front of Evil. Mispositioning there by Slater on that ultimate, or at least the ending of it.
Echo Fox is starting to do some really respectable damage. I think Rogue needs to be very careful. Yes, they've got Grace Ultimate to reset a bad situation, but if they don't position correctly, Echo Fox can get damage down onto multiple people, and the heal's only going to affect one. Right now, I'd like to see Rogue start to do a little bit more as well. You can see they're going for Goldmine. This is exactly the kind of thing I'm thinking they need to start doing, because they definitely have the edge here, at least for the time being.
I mean, you wanted them to be more proactive in the first game, and not what they're doing right now. They're not being proactive at all, and I mean, neither are Fox. I mean, both these teams very hesitant to actually make a full-on forced engage. You've got to say maybe that's because Pond needs to scale up. Yes, maybe they want Super Shot to scale up. Maybe they want Erwin to scale up, but they've got massive tools to isolate targets. Hammy and Slater. I mean, they've got massive heals coming out from Evil on the side of Rogue, and active camo stuns as well. I mean, both these teams maybe a little bit nervous coming into this game number 2, because game number 1, it was at a knife's edge at one point.
It was indeed. And I also, we got to remember, let's talk stakes for a second. This is a critical game for both of these teams. If Rogue actually picks up the win here, they're really well positioned, having won a third of their series already, heading into the rest of the weekend. Echo Fox, of course, wants to make a statement as well. Will they have the opportunity to, though? This is arguably, both of these teams, when you're looking at teams like Immortals, right, these are two of the teams not quite on the Immortals level, so any win you pick up matters more for that reason, too.
Okay, now they're pushing the turret. Will we see action? A lot of cauldrons down, but Pon choosing to actually make them explode with that heliogenesis, and it's going to be a bit of a slower game, I think, AJ. I think both teams now realizing that we don't want to see any action. We just want to see vision control, macro play, the finesse of Vainglory, but everybody else just wants to see them fight all the time. At least I do. But now let's look at the late game, though, because these teams are taking this very slow. We've seen Super Shot now. He's picked up that monocle. Where do we want to see them fight around, and where do we want to see them in terms of items when we want to see engagements, or when do you think they want to engage?
I think, whenever you're playing a composition that has, for example, good kite or the ability to play with positioning as Echo Fox does, you want to play around things like the gold mine or objectives in the jungle, because you have more space to kind of work with what you have. And someone like a Kestrel thrives in that environment where you can lay down traps and make it difficult for your opponents to move. On the other hand, though, if they filter themselves into some corridors, got to keep in mind as well that someone like Hammy can just jump on them, and that's a very scary situation to be in as well. So I think ultimately, though, both of these teams like fighting in the jungle, which means, it doesn't really matter, is the end result.
They can fight anywhere. They can fight in the jungle, they can fight in the lane, just preferably the jungle for both teams. Gold miner halfway full, almost, and now Rogue, now pressuring this lane in. I gotta say, Hammy has been a bit of a saint in this game. Normally it is very hard, and what I touched on earlier, to play against this ranged matchup, but managing to find fights and even creeping a small CS lead as well over Super Shot. Slater maybe looking to go in here. Evil is chunked out a little bit, same with Hammy, but Hammy has got a little bit more armor under his belt now. Has got that poison shiv as well to negate some of the healing from Erwin. Rogue still just flaring up, putting a lot of that vision down, again refusing to go in until the time is right.
I think that's smart. If you don't want to jump the gun, especially against a Grumpjaw, it's very risky. He can turn fights around from nowhere, and if you don't find the perfect angle, for example, on an afterburn, suddenly you're just in the wrong spot, and there's nothing you can do. So I like the fact that they're playing it carefully. I don't think there's much reason to put yourself at a big risk. You're not that far behind. You don't need to play that kind of game to come back from some kind of perceived deficit.
Well, Rogue now and Fox just going back to their lane matters, just clearing out those waves, pressuring that turret, and with every minion wave that does actually crash onto the turret, that's still a little inch of damage down, and it's an inch that Rogue don't have to actually secure later on. So that's another important thing to think about. Hammy's just been consistently shoving these waves in over and over again, making sure that turret is under the pressure it really needs to be, especially for their composition, who you could say, and I definitely think you could argue, is going to struggle a little bit in the late game taking these turrets just because the wave clear and the amount of damage Erwin and Super Shot have. Hammy, though, wants other matters, and he's actually just going to, I think, sacrifice his own life here, maybe, just to take that first tier turret. That is going to be the case. A 1-for-1, but would you say that's actually worth it for Rogue at this point? Because now Slater has an opening.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth it so long as you can defend this turret, and Pawn should... Oh, maybe not.
Oh, no. Evo has bitten off way more than he can chew. Slater's going to follow him up. Erwin just trying to find that last executing blow. Those Malice and Verdicts not quite landing. That turret's now going to turn his attention onto Erwin. Evo and upon the original, very, very low. Super Shot. I bet he wishes he had his ultimate up right now, but one shot, one kill is not available. And now with Hammy returning to the field, that's a fountain pop here. Benediction is going to land. Evo going very low, finally finished off by Erwin. No, 0-for-0 trade. Well, 1-for-0 trade. I don't know where they got the other 0 from. Echo has now been finished from Evil here, so another big power spike here for Rogue.
Man, talk about the nick of time there. Hammy coming to back his teammates up. I think, yeah, this is exactly what I was kind of talking about earlier on. It worked out very nicely for Rogue because they were able to defend the turret. It was a good trade. So long as they don't, lose a gold mine off the back, it's really good. And there's no chance of Fox going for that. We've also now got the power spike we're talking about from Evol, which is huge. It means next time they go for that play, I would probably back up Hammy. Ultimate him once, Echo, ultimate him twice. You're getting the turret for free. I mean, you can just face tank it. Why not? Why not, Joss?
Why not? Just run up to it. Don't matter about your own life. Just absorb those turret shots. I mean, I can see you doing that in your game, AJ, but maybe this game they don't want to do that because, especially if you're Pon, someone not so tanky. Oblivion's going to come out. Ooh, it's actually going to sleep Evo. Maybe this is their time to go in. Hammy dashing on the back. Oh, look at that damage onto Super Shot. Just goes down to a Heliogenesis. Solar Storm onto 2 people. Now Irwin's on the run. Hammy needs to be able to follow this up with another nice afterburn. He's done it time and time again, but that Heliogenesis and the Frostburn, way too much for Rogue, or way too much for Fox even. And now Hammy just chasing out Slater. Rogue, they're still a game up in this series, AJ, and it's looking like their game again.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where Rogue really falls too far behind after this. They have such a lead, and once Grace hits that Echo, it's so difficult to do anything. I don't think there's a good answer, for that kind of pickup on the side of Echo Fox. They're really going to rely on Grumpjaw ultimates. Maybe that's the only one, to be honest.
How many ults has he hit, though? That's the thing we got to think about, because we talked about in the early game, as soon as he hits that level 6 mark, he can isolate Evo. He can isolate Hammy, which he did one time. He's just not either landed the skill shot, or he's just not made them work and actually followed up with kills. This Grumpjaw at the moment is really just being this frontline tank with a pair of water heads, it seems. I mean, he's got an Atlas Pauldron, yes, and his base damage is quite high, but Rogue is just shrugging it off more or less the time.
Yeah, it is pretty difficult to find the window. And the thing is, as well, Grumpjaw in this comp normally doesn't want to be eating the captain, probably. You want to eat a carry and then just blow someone up whilst they can't actually do return damage to your double threat comp. Because that's the risk of playing double threat. Like, each member of your threat team is very squishy. And normally Grumpjaw can't protect that well except for eating a damage threat. But in this game, he kind of has to eat Evol, because otherwise, the ultimates. So there's no winning. Like, there's no winning that situation. You need to have other, confounding variables happen. Like, you need to have bad positioning from Rogue, or you need to have someone overextend, or you need to cap someone, right? Like, there's not many ways that damage sources from Echo Fox can do their job effectively. Look at this.
Well, Rogue's going to go in. That's going to be a Drifting Dark onto Hammy. That heal coming out from Miro. Double heal. Here comes Slady. Wants to enter the fight. Doesn't have the ultimate available. So Storm's going to hit 2 people. And now Fox are on the run. To Sly are Rogue, but Pon takes a big active camo trap. 1 shot, 1 kill. He's going to find Hammy, and they're going to jump on Hammy once again. He'll get stunned up, though. Core collapse from Pon was pretty big. That turret's going to fall, and no one going down just yet. Although Pon might be a little bit caught out here. Slater dashing to the back line. Those shields are massive. The core collapse big, and there we go. There goes another kill for Pon. Heliogenesis almost took out 2, but he ends up getting sniped away, and now Evo is going to try and take out Irwin, but Irwin picks up a kill. Hammy, can he be the man that everybody wants, that Rogue fans wants? No, he cannot, because he just cannot find the kill on 2. Irwin. That fight was messy. It lasted way too long, but still 2 for 2, and a turret goes in favor of Echo Fox.
So remember what I said literally right before that fight. I was like, the only way Echo Fox can deal with this is there's not great positioning on the side of Rogue. Well, Pon was very poorly positioned. He was miles away from his team. You have to be able to join up and do work together. He ran away from just Slater. That's the only person who was threatening him. If he'd ran under the turret, or if he'd ran, down the mustache bush and then back and behind the turret, he could have backed up Hammy during that double heal to actually kill the carries. Hammy also probably got a bit scared compared to what he needed to, given the fact that 2 heals were going to come up. He had basically 1,200 health more than he thought he did, and that's difficult to internalize at some stages, right? It's hard to realize that you are okay, actually. But yeah, Fox, that was a good opportunity for them to find a mistake from Rogue, and they did. As a result, things are a bit more even now.
They're a bit more even, but will it stay that way? I mean, Rogue's still looking very strong, and as long as Pon can get going in these fights, stacking up those broken myth stacks, It's very easy for him to get a massive ultimate off. Irwin's been found, though. He's been caught. War Tread's popped. A lot of damage on him. Core Collapse is going to get blocked, though. Slade's going to re-engage with the War Tread. Super shot on the side. Pond's going to go very low. There's the heal from Evo, but now he's completely isolated. Slade's going to jump on him. Another beautiful Core Collapse. Kraken's going to start up, but it's not in the favor of Echo Fox. Super shot in the front line, and now Pond is popping off. Irwin, the last member alive for Echo Fox. Rogue just going to chase him down. Run and gun. Pond, please, just finish off him. He deserves it. Just take him out of the field. Only Nova is going to find him, but they end up trading there. Ace comes through for Rogue, and they might as well just start up the Kraken now.
Yeah, easy pickup for the side of Rogue. That fight was much different than the last. There was a very distinct line of scrimmage that Slada moved too far past without his team, and that Pond, the original, stayed well clear of in order to stay alive. And that was exactly how Rogue needed to execute a fight in the late game like this. Let's see if Super Shot can make the Super Shot happen, though. One shot, one kill. Not going to steal away the Kraken this time. Came very close before. I was a little bit worried about it, actually. Just given earlier on.
I'm worried about every single one-shot, one-kill that happens. It's going to steal summon one day. You know it does. That massive burst damage is just sometimes too much for teams to handle, but the Kraken goes over to Rogue nonetheless. Still 2,000 in the lead. 8-6 on the scoreboard, but you've got to look at the situation as a whole. Fox, they've got a lot of damage down to that Kraken, but Rogue, a siege can be quite hard to deal with. Who is hard to deal with? Hammy and his damage. Super Shot gets Core Collapse, but he is going to block it. And now Oblivion's going to come through, completely blocked as well. Kraken still marching down this lane. And will Fox be able to kill it in time? I don't think so. That turret's going to go down with ease. And Rogue still marching on the base.
If Pond the original had like one more stack of Broken Myth, I think he would have killed Super Shot there. Kind of jumping the gun a little bit. Maybe not quite necessary, but still you can't argue with results, right? 2 turrets picked up from this push by Rogue. Very nice stuff there. Echo Fox did not have a good response to Hammy flanking. I think if you are able to react quickly enough, you think maybe there's a way of turning the fight around. But Hammy, I gotta admit, this is beautiful. He just decided, I'm not really trying to kill someone here necessarily. I'm mostly just creating space. So instead of saving my reflex block and relying on quick reflexes to block something and then translate that into a kill, let's just pop it while I'm going in. There's probably going to be an active camo. There's probably going to be a Grumpjaw ultimate. There's going to be something that I need to deal with. And so he just did it ahead of time, and I think Fox, mentally what that did to them was it said, all right, I guess we can't fight because we can't actually, kill him. We're not going to be able to crowd control. It bought a lot of time, a lot of space for Rogue to get in position and do what they needed to.
I mean, what's scary for Echo Fox right now, they could be the second team today to go 0-2, a team from the VG8 to go 0-2 to these strong teams coming up from Challenger Series. It's a very scary possibility, AJ, and it sets up these Challenger Series teams for good runnings in the days to come. Now
it really does. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, the items are just coming through thick and fast. Hammy's going to be invulnerable. I'm telling you that right now. He's going to be almost unkillable with that jacket on. Now Rogue just looking to pressure this lane, and we got to look at 10 minutes ago, AJ. These teams were so hesitant to fight, and now Rogue just pulling the trigger whenever it sees fit for them. Tenjibo's finish here from Super Shot really wants to get that burst damage down to Pom, but like we've seen time and time again, Hammy has got his number.
Yeah, Hammy has been doing a great job of getting on the back line, and at least, again, creating space. He doesn't necessarily find the afterburn, but he does consistently stop people from doing what they want to in fights, and that's the more important thing at this point, especially given that Celeste has long enough range that it doesn't matter so much. All right, look at this item pickup real quick. Slada went for a no-wave gauntlet. That could actually be pretty big. Used at the right time, it can deactivate reflex blocks and give you a free stuffed. Something to keep your eyes on, because normally stuff becomes a bit dicey in the later game. It's pretty telegraphed. You're able to reflex block it. But if someone doesn't realize Slada has a null wave, which in the heat of the moment late in the game, you might not, it could actually do a ton of work.
Oh, Benediction, you know what's better than pay for food? Free food. There goes the null wave. He's just going to eat him up. Oblivion's going to find Evol as well. That was absolutely massive. Super Shot almost gets annihilated, though, by that Solar Storm. I'm not sure they're even going to matter. They're even going to care, AJ. Rogue are just going to chase this up. A Heliogenesis and a swipe from Hammy will just take him off the board. Now Rogue, they end up finding this Kraken as well. That null wave didn't do all too much in that fight.
Yeah, there was a couple. So I thought it would, and I thought that actually eating Pawn might, but You know, as you get older, you realize your place in the universe is much more minuscule, and you don't matter as much. That's what happened here. These things did not matter at all. In fact, that was rough. I think that same kind of existential crisis probably just went through the minds of Echo Fox when they were like, we just did everything right and didn't do anything.
I mean, it sounds like me and you need to have a sit down, AJ. In all honesty, that was very philosophical
right.
of you.
Yeah, I've come to terms with it. Echo Fox, maybe not though. Maybe we should talk to them.
But yeah, maybe we should talk to them because there's another Kraken down coming on their base. Now, Pom, pushing forward. Here we go. This is it. This could be the end of the Rogue for Echo Fox, but will they be able to pull something back here? They need to be able to kill that Kraken fast. There's only 2 turrets remaining now. That Kraken isn't going down all too quick, and Rogue, they're impending might on this base. Blader has that null wave available. That silence is going to be pretty big. Maybe they make an engagement here. Look at Supershot. He's positioning. War Treads here. That's going to be a core collapse missing, and Pond's going to get a heal up. But look at the base, though. I don't think they actually noticed there. Hammy's actually just taking the base. They do actually manage to get stuffed onto Pond. He might just go down. That Oblivion's going to get blocked, but it's not going to matter. Owen gets knocked up. Slater, and now it's Evol's time to stop these recalls. Drifting dark here. And in fact, Hammy is just chunking away at this crystal. It might just go down. It does. That's going to be 2-0 going over to Rogue, and 2 of the VG8 teams are now sitting at 0 points coming through to the next couple of days.
What's with the backdoors, man? We've seen 2 of them in the challenge battle so far. Crazy stuff. Rogue looking real good. I think Echo Fox, maybe their drafts are the thing that I would highlight the most to work on. Let's see what they bring in their other games.
Goodness, my heart couldn't take that, AJ, for the last couple of seconds there. That game needs to be broken down because, yes, there's been 2 backdoors. What can teams do to stop these? I don't know. Munch, you guys can take it away.
There we have it. Another win for Rogue. A 2-0 in the end. And what a way to do it. As you guys rightly said, a second backdoor coming out today, just in North America alone. Fantastic play from Rogue, though. They managed